being able to sit down, relax, and kick back and enjoy the four-way title match. This shit was good. What a shame that instead of this maybe being the curtain jerker for the WrestleMania 31 main card, this was the curtain jerker for the WrestleMania 31 pre-show. You could tell in this match, these guys were angry, they were pissed off, they had a chip on their shoulder, as they deserved to have, and it showed in a good way. These guys were aggressive, they made the most out of the time that they had, and they validated in my mind why they belonged on the main card for WrestleMania. It's not like they didn't have room, these guys got hosed, and they wrestled like they got hosed in a good way. I'm happy for these guys because they really went out there and put on a good show, and really, set the tone very well way in the pre-show for WrestleMania 31. But of course, it just wouldn't be the WWE if they didn't go out of their way to wipe out all those good vibrations I got from that tag title match with this Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. I was wondering why the hell they kicked this to the pre-show. 7 matches on a 4-hour card. There had to be a reason. Well, after seeing this shit fest, I know now why they put this on the pre-show. They knew this was trash. They knew they were booking this like trash, and as a result, it needed to be on the pre-show because otherwise, if it was on the main card, it would have been trashed as it deserved to be. So let me get this straight. Instead of, let's say, giving somebody like Darren Young some spotlight here in a place like the San Francisco area where he would have had a bit of a following, we decided to eliminate him like he's no big deal. Instead of giving somebody like Curtis Axel, a guy that we devoted television time to, up to and including having him in a segment on Raw featuring Snoop Dogg and freaking Hulk Hogan, giving him a long run, maybe teasing some people, trying to get behind Axelmania, we crushed Axelmania almost immediately. Instead of giving Ryback that big shine, and maybe really giving him a signature WrestleMania moment to really help relaunch him nicely as a babyface going forward to 2015, we decided to put some shine on the Big Show. Instead of really launching Miz down, not only splitting him off from the Miz, but sitting there and maybe having him win the damn thing, we decided we're going to launch the Big Show. Instead of having a young guy, somebody that could have used this as a springboard for their career, their springboard for the rest of 2015, we decided to springboard the fucking Big Show. It's one thing if you would have maybe had Big Show win it last year with all the history and talking about respect for him, the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, what for his dad, yeah, whatever. But now we don't need to do that shit. This is a different year. In a time where this company desperately needs to create new stars, at a time where they get really no mileage out of Big Show whatsoever, at a time where Big Show does not fucking matter, and it's not just a hardcore fan, it's just period, it doesn't fucking matter. We have the Big Show win the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. What in the bluest of blue fucks was this company thinking? How did they think in any way that this was the right decision or any type of good decision whatsoever? This was dumb and this was stupid and frankly one of the real lowlights of WrestleMania 31. Now many reviewers that you'll see will talk about how they care about things other than the in-ring action on a pay-per-view, but the only thing they'll ever freaking talk about is the in-ring action on a pay-per-view. That's why they get to the spots and who won and lost, the booking decision, and the star ratings, and that's about it. Well, when it comes to WrestleMania of all shows, it's about more than just the in-ring action. It's about more than the flips and the kicks and the bumps and the jumps and the high spots and all of that crap. The skipty skips, the whoop-de-woos, the whatever the fuck ever. It's about more than that. WrestleMania is the granddaddy of them all when it comes to pro wrestling or sports entertainment. This is supposed to be the biggest, this is supposed to be the brightest, and this is supposed to be the best. And that's why when it comes to a show like WrestleMania, I talk about those things outside of just the in-ring action because they are just as important, if not more so, in terms of setting the tone for what I'm actually experiencing as a viewer of the event. And when it comes to that overall experience and some of those components outside of the in-ring action for WrestleMania 31, frankly, I think the WWE was very lacking. Honestly, the first thing that came to my mind as I tuned into the WWE Network to watch the pre-show was the fact that I realized they're out of the West Coast, it's afternoon, based off of the time zone they're in, it's pretty much going to be light out for almost the entire freaking show. And I remember the last time the WWE was in a similar situation. That was WrestleMania 9. Yeah, exactly. But when it comes to WrestleMania 31, I think one of the big problems they had was their sunshine problem. And this is something, frankly, that I should have been wizened up to and been able to talk about here before the show actually happened. This is something that we should have seen could have been a potential problem because, frankly, I think it was a very big problem and really hurt the overall viewing experience and enjoyment of WrestleMania 31. I think, frankly, both for the people watching there at Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara and for the people like me watching via the WWE Network at home. I mean, you've got fans paying $2,000 to $3,000 for ringside seats, yet they have to cover their eyes in order to see what the fuck's going on in the ring 15 feet in front of them. The LED lighting that's all around the place looks like shit. It looks stupid in the sun. It doesn't pop. It doesn't jump out and grab you like that type of lighting should. I mean, I grant you, I like the feel sometimes of having an outdoor show, and this felt like one of those old WCCW type of shows that they used to have in the old Cowboy Stadium back in the early 80s. But again, this is a different time, this is a different company with an entirely different set of production values. And while this wasn't a Raw set and a Raw setup, and that's a good thing, the visuals of this event were very lacking. They were very, very poor. And I think one of the things that really hindered the overall visual experience for WrestleMania 31 was the fact that they were in the sunshine pretty much the entire freaking event. Where you really saw, in my opinion, the effect of this sunshine on the visuals of WrestleMania in a negative way were on the entrances. Now, there were other mind-boggling and baffling decisions tied into these WrestleMania entrances that were done and in some cases not done. But one of the things that really hurt the entrances was the fact that it was in daylight pretty much the entire time. Like you look at Sting's entrance. Not only am I wondering what the hell this Japanese crap that he's doing is, it's the fact that it's Crow Sting basically with some red mixed in, but he's coming out in broad freaking daylight. It just didn't work. It didn't feel right. Triple H and whatever the hell he was supposed to be doing, I will be back. Please never bring this shit back again. He's supposed to be the freaking Terminator. Newsflash, that movie's gonna suck. And while it visually looks cool, at the end of the day, it didn't look the same. It didn't pop the way that it should because you're dealing with sunlight, you're dealing with shadows and all that other crap. I mean, some of the decisions in terms of what they did for entrances were bad, but on top of that, even if they made the best possible decisions, they had the best, most creative ideas, they still would have looked like shit, especially for us viewing it at home, and I'm sure for the people there at Levi's Stadium, because you couldn't really see as well because it was too fucking light out. Like, here's what I'm trying to figure out. Why somebody would think it's a good idea to have this event outdoors where it's going to be sunshine the entire time when you got somebody like freaking Bray Wyatt, where part of the ambiance and environment that is created with this entrance is 70,000+ people potentially lighting up a freaking cell phone, thinking he's got the whole world in his hands. You took that entirely big component away from Bray Wyatt's entrance. And while you made a good decision in this case with what you did do with Bray Wyatt's entrance, making the best out of a bad situation, I mean, this is a big deal. Imagine the visuals of how that would look, 75,000+ people with their cell phones lit up and Bray Wyatt coming down with these scarecrow-looking fucking things. It's just the sunshine created all types of big problems visually for the entrances, which again are a big deal and a big part of the WrestleMania experience. But what really surprised me was the fact that there was no intricate Cena BS. One of the notable things that he does at WrestleMania is have some type of big type of intricate bullshit type of production, and especially once you see what they did with Rusev. Why would you do the same thing with Cena? You really didn't have any type of intricate bullshit entrance for either Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar. Those guys were in your freaking main event, and usually you have some type of big deal entrance of some kind for these guys, and it was nothing. But the worst thing of all is you look at The Undertaker. That's his thing. The entrance is his thing. And we haven't seen him in a freaking year. And you waited all this time to finally unveil him at WrestleMania 31, and it's just basically the gong hits, there's some smoke, and out walks this 50-year-old dude. If that isn't the most disappointing Undertaker WrestleMania entrance that I've ever seen, I can't tell you what other one would fit into that category. Because shit, we can talk about WrestleMania 9 all day long, but at least visually that entrance for The Undertaker looks spectacular. Here we are, some 22 years later, and this is the bullshit that they gave us. The best entrance of the night was freaking Rusev. That entrance was awesome. But he should have learned from Dukakis in '88. Riding in the tank isn't going to get you the victory. And he found that out later on. But again, the entrances, something that is such a big part, in my opinion, of the WrestleMania visual viewing experience, was so off the mark in terms of some of the decisions that they did do, and then the sunlight really coming in and affecting the visuals of it as well. And then on top of that, missing out and not doing entrances with some of their most featured performers on this freaking show. I don't know why in recent years the WWE has started this with WrestleMania, having the fewest amount of matches they can possibly have on the show. It's not good. It doesn't help. It's dumb. It's stupid. It's bad. It hurts the show. It creates all types of problems for the structure and flow of the show over the course of 4 hours. 7 matches in 4 hours isn't enough. That's stupid. That's ridiculous. Because here's what happens every year they do this shit at WrestleMania. They cut back on the number of matches that should be on this 4-hour show and end up burning through the first hour plus way too freaking fast. Then they try to overcompensate and correct for their burning through the first hour to hour and a half by going way too freaking slow, trying to bring the show to a grinding, screeching halt, hopefully meaning that the last hour and a half or so they're able to keep on a smooth, consistent tempo. And they don't do a good job of keeping it steady all throughout and building upon itself. It's too much of an ebb and flow, and it's not a good thing. And this whole bullshit argument that I get about, well, that means more time for the matches that are on the show. Well, ding dong, dumb dicks, just because a match can go longer doesn't mean that it always should go longer. Just because you can give it more time doesn't mean that that match needs more time, deserves more time, warrants more time, or has to have more time. Sometimes less is more. More isn't always the good type of more. And even when you look at this year's show, they had all this time to burn and they still managed their time poorly. You have less than 2 matches a freaking hour. You cut out several big entrances that you would have had any other freaking year. Where the hell did the fucking time go? 7 matches in almost 4 hours of show, and you couldn't figure out a way to better manage your time and keep the flow of the show more consistently. This was one of the big hindrances to me in my viewing experience for this year's WrestleMania. Okay, so I talked about the pre-show, I talked about some of the other things that are a big part, in my opinion, of the WrestleMania viewing experience. Now I think it's time for us to actually talk about the main card, the actual WrestleMania 31 show. The one thing that WWE really deserves a lot of credit for is their ability to hit home runs with their video packages, especially when they're trying to build up to a big event. They really know how to tie many things in well together. They know how to tell a good story. They know how to incorporate history. I mean, this video package in particular that kicked off WrestleMania 31 was outstanding. If you had zero excitement level for the show heading into that video package, you at least had to get a little bit ramped up and a little bit excited after watching it. I know I certainly did. This was incredible. The WWE knows how to create themselves a video hype package. They know how to put together and produce one. They deserve a ton of credit for that. Sometimes they go to the well too often on this and fall too much in love with their ability to do this, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. I just wonder, why couldn't LL Cool J have been the performer later on for WrestleMania 31? I'm hoping we were going to see LL more because, man, he was like the perfect mouthpiece for this video package. Really, really set the table nicely for the actual show. So the actual show kicked off, not surprisingly, I think, with the IC title ladder match. This was the match that had to kick off the show, and it's the match that did. And I was looking at this match and expecting it to be some crash test dummy type of affair with big spot after big spot, just being one big whoop in your face type of match for 20 to 30 minutes. I thought this was going to be these guys sitting there, especially the guys like the Ziggler and the Bryans and the Ambroses of the world, saying, man, fuck this shit, us curtain jerking here at WrestleMania. We want to show we could do better. We want to show that we could do more and that we deserve more and that we deserve better. The fans deserve better. Everybody deserves better. Well, I can certainly tell you this. I've seen better and I've seen a lot better. Not only just with opening matches at WrestleMania, but in particular with ladder matches in general and ladder matches at WrestleMania specifically. There was way too little done in far too little time. I don't understand, with 4 hours pretty much available to you, why you felt you had to condense this crap down, I think, into right around 15 minutes. It was just way too short. You got all of these guys, you have all of these ladders, you have all this shit you could do, and they didn't do half of it. I don't know if they were under marching orders to sit there and not go too far over the top, or they just wanted to play it safe because they were already on the WrestleMania show and maybe they didn't care because they were only curtain jerking here at WrestleMania. But this match should have been a whole lot more than it actually was. I was surprised just how mediocre this was. Now, surely, many are going to talk about this being great and awesome because there were some extreme spots, but even these so-called extreme spots weren't all that extreme. The best spot of the entire thing was Ambrose getting thrown out the ring onto the ladder, and then he was out the rest of the freaking match. At the end of the day, the right guy won with Daniel Bryan, but even the way he won was stupid. That finish was fucking stupid, and don't give me that whole Japan crap. Well, maybe there's a reason it's done in fucking Japan, and it's not done here in the States, because it doesn't work here, because it was stupid. And in particular, it was stupid how the production truck decided to just go to the camera angle that shows Dolph Ziggler and Daniel Bryan clearly not connecting with any of these damn headbutts at this most climactic of moment over a second-tier title at WrestleMania. I'm fine with Daniel Bryan winning, but he really didn't even do much in this match. They didn't even spotlight him all. They didn't even give him the right type of shine. They didn't give Dolph Ziggler the right type of shine either. Maybe they shouldn't have with that ridiculous look at tail he had. And yeah, exactly. But the right guy won, but the match was fucking stupid. And in particular, the finish of this match was fucking stupid. This is supposed to be some big type of crazy spot fest that just dominates and sits there and grabs everybody by the balls and pulls them. And it didn't. The few matches on this card that I was really looking forward to was Randy Orton versus Seth Rollins because I thought this definitely had a chance to have some match of the night possibilities. It had story that had been carrying out for months heading into it. You know, I wasn't a big fan at all of the build-up towards WrestleMania 31 in this match. At the end of the day, I thought that these guys were going to go out there and really strut their stuff and really be given the time to own the night in some ways. At least be one of the parties that really helped this show and be a real positive part of the show. And it was placed perfectly on the card. I mean, this just had a lot of things going for it heading in. Unfortunately, what it didn't have going for it was the WWE because the WWE and their own stupidity creates a circumstance where they undercut what could have been a really damn good and special WrestleMania match. Because just as this thing was getting going and it was getting good, it was over. Is a victim of WWE's horrible time management. I have no idea why this match didn't have at least another 5 to 7, if not 10 minutes. Because just as they were really starting to get into their story, just as it was really starting to get moving, it was over. I mean, the right guy won, in my opinion, based on especially what happened at the end of the night, and you had a great, memorable WrestleMania moment type of finish, but at the end of the day, this match was too short, and that's inexcusable. You only had 7 matches on the fucking card. How could you not figure out a way to give this match more time instead of having to sit there and overcompensate later on in the night and giving far too much time to a match that needs less time? They do this shit every fucking year, and Randy Orton versus Seth Rollins is this year's primary example victim of the WWE stupidity when it comes to their time management. This could have been so much more. It could have been more. It should have been more, but it wasn't more. At the end of the day, you want to know what this felt like? Just a really good Raw main event. And that's great if you have a Raw and you need a good main event. Man, this would have delivered. This would have knocked the people's socks off, especially with that finish. People have been tweeting about it all night and into the next day. But the problem is this is WrestleMania. Raw main event quality isn't good enough for fucking WrestleMania. It's time for us to sit there and demand WrestleMania quality matches at, oh, I don't know, ding dong dum, it's fucking WrestleMania. Oh, and by the way, there was one other thing that was going to play out throughout the course of the entire night. The Breakfast Club rules, bitches. For weeks, I had really started to get that sneaking suspicion that Sting versus Triple H could really be the match that surprised people and really ended up stealing the show at WrestleMania 31. So you can imagine my great surprise when I saw that this match was going to be third on the card. I was stunned. I thought this match needed to be higher on the card, deserved to be higher on the card, and that frankly this show needed this match to be higher on the card. But it was like the WWE sent this out third on the night because they needed a match to slow the tempo of the show down, to slow the WWE down, because they knew they were repeating mistakes of previous years, so every year they do the same damn thing, and they did it here. And it was also maybe a statement that they didn't have that much confidence in Sting to be able to go out and deliver a big-time WrestleMania caliber performance, or maybe furthermore, they just didn't feel that Sting was all of that important. Well, I knew heading into this that this match, based off the way the show had started, was really going to be the tipping point for the evening, and I had a feeling where this evening was going to go after this. I also had a feeling that the crowd was going to try and Hogan and Rock this, and they most certainly did. The early part of this match was slow, it was methodical, it kind of moved at a snail's pace, it was a little bit here, a little bit there, and it was everything that it should be. Here you have Sting. This is his first ever appearance at a WrestleMania, his first ever match at a WrestleMania, his first ever match in the WWE. And here he is, a guy in his mid-50s, coming to all these years of previous WCW accolades, because we forget all that time he worked for that other company for Dixie. But here he was in good shape. He wasn't wearing a freaking t-shirt. He looked good. He was moving around well. He was engaged. He was interested. You could tell the moment meant something to him, that it mattered. And that comes through as you're watching, especially on the WWE Network. You had Triple H doing what he needed to do, showing his in-ring leadership, showing himself to be the great in-ring general that he has been for so many years, understanding the pacing that this match needed at the beginning, understanding what type of story they needed to slowly develop, and they were developing it, and it was going really, really well. The crowd was really organically getting into this. The people were really getting behind Sting and starting to really turn on Triple H, exactly what needs to happen. And just as I thought this was really going to take off on an entirely different plane all on its own, then bam! Here comes Degeneration X, and my initial reaction was, no, no, no. This might have seemed like a great concept in theory. You might have thought that this match was going to need it, this type of kind of, sentimental crap to get it over, but you didn't need it. Why go there? But then, man, once the NWO came out, I was like, fuck it. This just took shit to a whole different level. This just really set this match on another pedestal and was really having it geared towards being one of those timeless WrestleMania classics. I mean, this basically was the invasion angle that we never fucking got. Screw that abortion of a crap hole that we got in 2001 that was the invasion angle. Here's a freaking invasion angle. Here, you got Sting. You got the NWO versus Triple H and DX. This shit reeked of so many different levels of awesome. And I don't give a damn about it being overbooked. I don't give a damn about this or that because it worked, especially for older fans like me. And I know I'm not the only one that this really worked for because we're sitting there thinking about it. We're like, man, this is taking us back. And nostalgia always makes things so much better. And when you get a chance to vicariously live through this shit one more time, it really strikes a chord with you. This was going to be a classic. This was going to be memorable. This was going to be one of those WrestleMania matches like a Hogan and Rock that we were going to talk about for decades to come. Everything was perfect. And then the finish happened. Oh, and what a finish it was. Just when I think the WWE can't possibly get any more idiotic, just when I think the WWE can't get any more out of touch with the reality of what needs to happen, you get this shit. For some inexplicable reason, the decision was made to have Triple H go over Sting. Why? Just fucking why? I don't get it. Because here's the thing. If Sting is going to wrestle again at WrestleMania 32, let's say, and I believe fully at this point in time that he's going to, then why in the bluest of blue hells would you have him lose in his first ever WrestleMania match, his first ever match in the WWE? It doesn't make sense. And if this was going to be his only WrestleMania, like it's his one and done, his one and only match, then didn't Sting and his legacy deserve to have this victory at WrestleMania? Didn't his fans deserve to have this moment at WrestleMania? And what the hell good does it do for a Triple H to win this freaking match, especially in this type of way? If anything, it looks more ridiculous that he had to win because he had 4 of his buddies freaking helping him out, trying to get him to victory. So Triple H benefits none. In fact, looks like a jackass. And Sting doesn't benefit from this either. It's just a lose-lose all the way fucking around. Why the fuck would you do it? Well, then dumb bitch, we know exactly why. This comes down to one man and one man only, and that's Vincent K. McMahon. For some goddamn reason that still defies me to this day, Vince can't let it go. You won, asshole! You won! WCW is dead. WCW is buried because you made it that way. You bought them. You destroyed them. You now use them as a device to bring people to your WWE network to make money. Why would you sit there and continue to run that brand into the fucking ground when they are a part of your WWE network portfolio and a very significant and important part of that portfolio at that? You won! I understand to the victors go the spoils, and one of the big spoils of being the victor is being able to write the history books the way you fucking want to. God knows in this country we sure the hell did. But it doesn't mean that you always have to do that. Here was an opportunity to get something right. Sting was one of the few compelling things heading into this year's WrestleMania. He was one of the few things, frankly, that people gave a shit about heading into WrestleMania. He was going to be one of the few highlights of this year's WrestleMania. And he was one of the highlights of this year's WrestleMania. And you decided to validate him and his appearance and his fans and that company by having him job out, even with getting help from the NWO, to Triple H and freaking Degeneration X. This was unnecessary. This is all about Vince and Kevin Dunn, and especially Vince not being able to let shit go. God damn it. We know you won. You don't have to establish your superiority any fucking more. It's kind of pathetic that you still have to 14 fucking years later. This was Sting's night. This was Sting's moment. And this was something that could have benefited so many parties all around by having Sting win this goddamn match. This is about as ridiculous as having Hogan lose to Rock at WrestleMania 18 the same night you had freaking Hall lose to Austin with the help basically of Kevin Nash in a glorified 2-on-1 handicap match. You bring in the NWO on their first match on a pay-per-view was at WrestleMania 18, you have everybody fucking lose. Jesus Christ. The monster's got to kill a few people to get himself over. Well, why can't Sting beat somebody to help get himself over to the WWE audience? It's because Vince can't fucking let it go. He can't bring himself to get past his goddamn ego to be able to say, hey, WCW wasn't the total drizzling shit. Hey, somebody like Sting does have a legacy that deserves to be honored. Hey, WCW fans aren't the redneck morons that I think they fucking are. Shame on Triple H for signing off on this shit. Because he knew, he should have understood, but at the end of the day, he don't give a fuck because it's all about Triple H. And don't sit there and give me that whole losing record at WrestleMania bullshit. Because as I talked about heading into WrestleMania, one of my great fears about Triple H isn't necessarily the number of wins or losses he has at WrestleMania. It's the decision making behind some of the wins and losses at WrestleMania. And this was a situation where he should have lost. It's not going to hurt him. He's Triple H. People would have understood. It would have been okay. It was the right decision to have him lose. And instead you have him win. Why? Because the Breakfast Club rules, bitches. Now, after the ridiculousness of this booking decision of having Triple H go over Sting, I needed a little bit of a pick-me-up, and ironically, it was Daniel Bryan and some WWE legends that gave me just that. This was a really appropriate follow-up. I think this was planned specifically because Vince and certain people behind the scenes knew that the Sting losing might not go over all that well, so then again, maybe you should have the guy fucking win, just saying. But man, this was fun. Daniel Bryan, you got Roddy Piper, and you've got freaking Ric Flair, you've got Bret Hart, you've got Ron Simmons, just a lot of fun shit. WrestleMania needs more things like this, and this year's show most certainly could have used more shit like this. But for some reason, the WWE forgets this. They get too caught up in production values and trying to show their video package making chops, and getting caught up in this and that, and they get away from the basics. They forget these small things like this type of segment, like backstage interviews, like off-the-cuff promos, hyping up a match at the show itself, really help fans get engaged and invested in these performers at an entirely different, more meaningful level. And it's a way for these guys to also get over at an entirely different and more significant level. And the WWE, for some reason, doesn't get that. They don't understand that. They go away from that. Just because you can always get fancy doesn't mean you always should get fancy. Sometimes KISS, keep it simple, stupid is the way to go. Daniel Bryan and all these legends, that was simple. And it was great. And we needed more of that in the show. It's a 4-hour show. We need a piss break at some point in time. And every year at WrestleMania, that the concert performance, whatever the fuck you want to call that, alleged form of entertainment that they put on, is going to be the perfect opportunity for a piss shit, smoke, snack break, whatever the hell you want to do. But I'm sitting there, before it even began, when they're introducing people, I kind of remember like Travis Barker, maybe it's just me being an older guy, but I seriously didn't know who the rest of these fucking people were. I mean, this is WrestleMania. This is a big fucking deal. You have cities compete for the right, the honor to have WrestleMania. And these are the best lame-ass acts you can fucking get. There have to be bigger and better acts out there. You would think with WrestleMania, this isn't something where the WWE should have to extend invitations. This should be something where groups and performers are beating down their door to have the right, the honor, the privilege to be able to perform in front of 70, 75 plus thousand damn people watching live, and then who knows how many people watching at home. You've got to have something bigger and better than this crap. And it seems like the WWE doesn't even try to make this good. They don't even care to try to make this entertaining. It was lame and pointless, and more lame than pointless than in previous years. So they need to step up to the plate. If they want to make this a Super Bowl type of halftime show, then they need to make it a Super Bowl type of halftime show. They need to bring in real big-time performers and do big-time things with those big-time performers. Not this lame-ass pointless filler shit that they do that only gets worse as each year goes along. This is fucking WrestleMania. And this is the best you can get. Fortunately for many of us, the WWE decided to be extremely generous by giving us an extended piss, shit, smoke, talk, snack break by having the Divas tag match go on right after this concert. But all kidding aside, you only had 7 matches on this damn card, and you couldn't even give this match 7 freaking minutes. You give Divas a chance. You couldn't even give them 7 fucking minutes. And the whole thing, like AJ, she didn't even act like it was a big deal. Couldn't you break out something a little special? I mean, Christ's sakes, even Luke Harper had a new vest for WrestleMania. I mean, this is give Divas a chance, yet this was more of the same old shit. You have a Raw tag match of no real consequence that barely gets the time that is needed. This had no business being on the WrestleMania card fucking period. This was pointless, this was filler garbage, and everybody fucking knows it, whether they want to admit it or not. Why in the hell was this match on the WrestleMania card if the title wasn't going to be involved, or anything of any type of significance or consequence was going to happen, or some type of turn or something? Nothing happened. You can believe all the bullshit you want about this company is going to give Divas a chance. They ain't giving them shit. Don't be so goddamn stupid. It's more of the same old bullshit. They took these 4 girls and threw them in there and said, you got less than 7 minutes, make magic happen, but don't do anything that could actually make magic happen. Again, a Raw tag match, and not even a really good Divas Raw tag match. It was a waste of time. Several things that frustrated me about WrestleMania 31, and one of them had to be this U.S. title match between Cena and Rusev. And the whole time I'm sitting there, I just got this feeling of doom. I know what's going to happen, especially when they had Rusev come out in the tank. Like I said, I had flashbacks to the Dukakis of '88, and that didn't go well for him. I knew where this was heading. Everybody knew where this was heading, and it's just more of the same old shit. Here's what I don't understand. Why is Rusev acting like the frustrated one? Why is Rusev acting like he's the one that can't overcome the obstacle when he's supposed to be the fucking obstacle? Why is John Cena being booked as the obstacle? Why is he not the one that's frustrated? Why is he not the one that can't figure out how to beat this freaking Goliath monster that can't be stopped? The whole dynamics of the bullshit doesn't work. And no busting out a new botchy move doesn't equal good storytelling. It's just more of the same old bullshit in a John Cena match in particular at WrestleMania. The finish was lame, the match was lame, the dynamics of it were lame, and how fitting it was that the finish came across kind of lame. Because it was lame, because so many things involving the Cena character today are freaking lame. No, just because you could have Cena win at WrestleMania doesn't mean you needed to have Cena win at WrestleMania. Rusev's loss should have really mattered and been a really huge deal. He hadn't lost in a one-on-one singles match, he hadn't been pinned or submitted. This is something that should have been memorable. This is really in particular something that should have been used to help elevate somebody to an entirely different level. Really been a springboard for them. But instead, Rusev losing at WrestleMania is more of the same old bullshit. While Cena's not main eventing, he's just crushing people and he's crushing characters. You're just building up characters for a year just to feed him to the Cena monster come WrestleMania. See Bray Wyatt. They did this shit again. The WWE just can't fucking help themselves. They sit there and try and spin you with this bullshit of, oh, we'll put the U.S. title on John Cena, so that's going to make that belt mean more. It's going to add prestige, and it's going to be a whole bunch of bullshit. It's New Year, more Breakfast Club BS from John Cena and crew. I mean, you have to give them credit. The Breakfast Club came out smelling like roses on this night. They dominated. They enforced their way. They imposed their will on this shit, and they burned and buried everybody in their fucking path. And anybody's going to sit there and try and tell you, well, this is going to tell a great story, ain't going to tell bullshit. And you fucking know this. So stop trying to put a positive spin on it just to sit there and try and rationalize it and justify it because you don't like shitting on something that you want to enjoy watching. Well, at the end of the day, stupid is stupid, and this was stupid. At least if Cena was going to win, the dynamics and the storytelling of the match could have been better. The match was a miss because John Cena's character is a miss because everything the WWE does with him is a fucking miss. And having Rusev lose in this kind of half-ass way is another big miss. I understand sometimes that technology can be stubborn and technology can create all types of problems. But the fact of the matter is the WWE's been doing this WWE network for over a year. And I'm not going to sit there and excuse them for some of the problems that they still have from a technical standpoint when it comes to the quality of audio and video and playback capabilities of the WWE network. The video quality for the show, for me at least, was very off and on throughout the night. I hadn't had this problem with the past couple of shows, but I really had a problem here with WrestleMania. And that's bad because this is your biggest show of the year. This is where you should be firing on all cylinders. I don't want to hear the excuses about how many people were fucking watching this shit. I don't want to hear this excuse. I don't want to hear you're still new at it. You've been doing it for over a fucking year. Figure it out. After the U.S. title match, my feed went back to the finish of Sting versus Triple H. It jumped way back a freaking time, Quantum Leap style. I was expecting Dean Stockwell to come with this fucking thing and tell me where the hell I was and what universe I was and what my purpose was for being there. After 13 months, these problems are inexcusable and far from a great movie, The Princess Bride. These problems are inconceivable. How could you not figure this out? How could you not have your ducks in a row? How could you not have this working better? And I know I was by no means the only person that had a problem with this. And this was a problem. This is not good. And this, again, hurts the overall viewing experience for me of WrestleMania. And it must be a part of the equation when grading the show. When I saw Stephanie and Triple H out there, I'm like, oh god, they're trying to pull some Vince shit and bask in the glory of the record they set at a venue that's been open for less than a fucking year now. And most certainly they did. How about that? Triple H was just in this huge, great battle with Sting, and there he is a little over an hour later coming out, no selling it like no big deal in a freaking suit, sitting there and basking in the glow. And it basically was sitting there, to me anyways, and saying, you know, fuck Steve, fuck WCW, we are doing our own shit, we're great, we're awesome. And as soon as I saw them out there, I'm like, why the hell are these guys out there? They've got to be going somewhere. I'm like, oh god, they're already in WrestleMania 32 mode for God. And that's certainly what it was. It's fuck WrestleMania 31 Sting, doesn't matter, Sting's in the past, it's on to WrestleMania 32. Here comes The Rock. And The Rock got a massive pop, that's for damn sure. And we clearly know now what is probably main eventing next year's show. They teased us before, they've been kind of guiding you in that direction before. Some of us thought it might happen at WrestleMania 31. Well, we damn sure as well hell know now that it's happening at WrestleMania 32. And The Rock was The Rock. He was glorious. Stephanie was Stephanie, and that's all fine and good. Although there's always one problem with Stephanie, and that is as a female authority figure, you're limited in what the males can do as in terms of repercussions or retributions towards that female authority figure, which in this particular case they didn't have to worry about because The Rock milks it so well, works it so well to get Ronda Rousey involved. You had to know at some point, once The Rock got out of the ring and started walking out, I'm like, yeah, he's going to Rousey. And as he walked that way, I'm like, yeah, he's going to Rousey. And, you know, it was a cool appearance. It felt WrestleMania worthy. It was definitely a WrestleMania moment. The one thing that really stood out to me as Ronda Rousey finally got into the ring, I'm like, holy shit, Stephanie McMahon is bigger than Ronda Rousey. If I didn't know any better based off of their backgrounds and their pedigrees, I would actually put my money in Stephanie McMahon in a fight against Ronda Rousey. It was just something that stood out to me. And, you know, there are a lot of things that people are going to like about this segment, and there are plenty of things to like about this segment. However, we can't put over Sting, but we can put over a female UFC fighter. Does anybody have a problem with that? We can't put over a WrestleMania 32 featured attraction potentially in Sting, who might be facing somebody like, let's say, Taker. But we can put over a Ronda Rousey, who not only isn't guaranteed to be any part of WrestleMania 32, might never be a part of any WrestleMania at all. And worst of all, Vince McMahon and all of his brilliance and fucking ego can't put over WCW because of the stubborn, petulant fuck that he is in any way, shape, or form. Yet he can put over UFC, a company that is direct competition to him currently, that has taken away market share from him. All this was a mainstream media grabber and a well-executed one, but one that still pisses me the fuck off. We can put over Ronda Rousey in the UFC, but we can't put over Sting and we can't put over WCW. Fuck this shit. One thing I thought I would never ever say about a Taker match or a Taker appearance at WrestleMania is, meh. But wouldn't you know, that happened this year. Bray Wyatt versus The Undertaker. Too little, a year too late. This match was, you know, weird, odd, kind of surreal, and really not in a good way. You're trying to establish everything between these two having an issue in that one match, and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't click the way you might have hoped and envisioned that it would. You know, the nostalgia of having Taker come back at WrestleMania, you need more than that, especially now that the streak is freaking over. And it's a lot different than when you had it at WrestleMania 20 when it was Taker sending messages to Kane, and Taker didn't appear until WrestleMania. Well, it was Kane that helped Vince bury Taker alive at Survivor Series 2003, and these guys already had years of history before that. So you could bring Taker back to face Kane blind at WrestleMania 20, and the dynamics freaking work. Well, with Bray Wyatt, you have none of that. You can have Bray Wyatt doing all these promos and saying all this shit for weeks and weeks and weeks, calling this guy out, but at the end of the day, that doesn't necessarily make for the dynamics of a good feud, a good rivalry, or an interesting, compelling story to be told. And there most certainly, to me, wasn't a compelling, interesting story that was told here between Bray Wyatt and The Undertaker. Listen, at the end of the day, Taker's one of my favorites of all time. I respect this man more than anybody in the history of the business. I wanted to get behind this match. I wanted to get behind him. I wanted this to matter. I wanted to care. I really, truly did. I wanted this to be a spotlight moment for Bray Wyatt. I wanted this to be a bit of a redemption piece for The Undertaker. If there was one match and one thing of all that I wanted to have to eat shit and like the taste about it with WrestleMania, it was this match. I desperately did, because Taker, as a wrestling fan, means that much to me. But the crowd chanting for Bray Wyatt at any point in time shows just how off the dynamics were of this match. It never really clicked. It never really got over. He finally started to tell a story, but that was at the finish. I will admit, when Bray Wyatt goes back into his crawl and then Taker sits up and looks at him, that's an awesome moment. That's a cool moment. And I know some of you are going to sit there and say, you know, well, Wyatt hurt himself before the match, so he did the best that he could. And some of you are going to sit there and say, well, you know, this is so much better than what we got with Lesnar and Taker last year. Well, at the end of the day, let's look at it this way. Bray Wyatt loses again at WrestleMania. This is how you validate one of your top young stars. It was a lose-lose situation. I fucking told you it was. Taker won, but did anybody really win for this? Even the pop for Taker winning, it was like he kind of got it at the end because the fans understood and they respect Taker, but it just didn't work. Just because it was better than Taker and Lesnar doesn't mean very much. Taker and Lesnar was terrible, like almost iconically, horribly terrible. If Wyatt and Taker is a step or two or three or four steps up from that, that still can mean it's a bad to mediocre match, and that's exactly what this was. It could be better than shit and still not be good. This is an example, just like with so many things today in the WWE, where you lower your expectations so much to where good is even below mediocre or average, and you fool yourselves into thinking that it's something more, because again, you want to justify why you were continuing to watch and support this product. Well, at the end of the day, this wasn't that good. It was slow, it was awkward. Yes, it was better than Taker versus Lesnar last year at WrestleMania. But what the fuck would it be? I mean, that was so bad on so many different levels. We're actually using that as a purpose to compare a point of comparison to this year's match to try and justify this thing as being anything other than weird, odd, surreal, not in a good way, mediocre to borderline bad. Look, you could tell Taker worked hard to get to this point. Taker came out, put out a good effort, but he still looked old. He was slow-moving. The match was slow-moving. The storytelling dynamics really didn't click, even though they tried. It just didn't work. It was worth a try, I suppose, even though it was a lose-lose situation all the way around. And at the end of the day, who really benefited or won from this match? So with all that had happened leading up to the main event, I was afraid of what I was going to get. I said, oh, God. I'm like, please don't suck. Please don't suck. Please don't suck. Well, suffice it to say, this WWE World Heavyweight Championship match between Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar and everything involved with it most certainly did not suck. This was the main event that this show needed. Maybe not the main event that this show deserved, but this is the main event that this show needed. This was easily the best executed segment of the show by far. Not even close. If you think this, that, or anything other than this was the best executed segment of the night, you're an idiot. Because this was incredibly well done. The WWE made the best of a bad situation that they themselves once again had created. Now with that said, we need to stop giving the WWE credit for trying to fix problems that they created to fucking begin with. It's one thing to fix it in hindsight. It's another thing to have the genius and intelligence and the vision and the understanding and the ability to listen to your fans and the momentum of what is going on to understand what's the right thing to do the first time. It's not about getting it right. It's about getting it right the first time. So don't sit there and praise the WWE for calling the right audible. They should have been in a position of fucking audible to begin with. And for the second year in a row, they had audible because they don't know what the fuck they're doing. But in terms of the match itself, first between Reigns and Lesnar, my God, I loved how stiff this was. It was like they told Brock to go out there and fuck him up, teach him a lesson, make this shit look real, because that's the only way this shit is going to get over. And Brock was like, yeah, suplex city, bitch. And then Roman's like, I got something for your ass. How about some Samoan stud in your fucking eye? This match was fucking sick in terms of its physicality. Now, it was slow and it was plodding. And again, I don't quite understand why Brock gets such a free pass when we talk about 5 moves of doom. It's basically suplex city shit, bitch. Well, that's pretty much summing up Brock's damn near entire moveset. But damn, the match dynamics worked. Everything that needed to be accomplished was accomplished. Brock was a dominant beast, but not so dominant to where he didn't show any type of chinks in the armor at all. Roman kept getting beat and kept coming back to get his ass beat some more while still being able to get something in. But then that's when the magic really started to happen. The WWE did what they needed to do. They break out Seth Rollins by having him cash in. They do the one unique thing that they've never done before at WrestleMania in the main event that they needed to do. The timing was right. The situation was perfect. It had to happen. It needed to happen. And by God, the WWE was smart enough to sit there and acknowledge that this was the right thing to do. Having Seth Rollins cash in to win the title in the main event of WrestleMania 31. What does it do? It has Brock lose without getting pinned. It protects him. He's still a monster. You have Reigns lose, and he's frankly much better off for it because now the crowd can sit there and say, hey, he ain't that bad. He jobbed to freaking Rollins. He didn't win the title at WrestleMania. He wasn't that bad. I mean, I'm never going to like him that much. I'm never going to be a huge fan of his, but is he really that bad? Is he really to Cena levels? Because shit, he sat there in his first ever WrestleMania main event and jobbed. What did Cena do in his first couple of WrestleMania main events? Fucking exactly. You got Roman Reigns eating a pinfall to Seth Rollins as opposed to John Cena beating JBL in 2005, Triple H in 2006, and then Shawn Michaels in 2007. There's a big, big difference. Let's keep that in mind. You got Rollins validating the push that began last summer, and all the while you're launching some nice short-term programming between him and Reigns. Now you got Reigns as the babyface that's chasing. You have Rollins winning in a way that can kind of keep him heel, even though you know the hardcore fans and some other fans are going to try and keep him face. But you set up a program that works now, and you set up a program for Lesnar down the road, either with Reigns or Rollins or potentially both. There were so many things that could have went poorly with this title match at WrestleMania. This is exactly the type of main event I talked about the WWE needed almost 3 months ago because this was the only main event they had. They had no other option. They had no other choice. The dynamics of this worked so much better because it was Roman Reigns that was wrestling Brock Lesnar. It was Roman Reigns that was eating the pinfall to Seth Rollins, and Seth Rollins is cashing in successfully at WrestleMania, something that nobody has ever done. And all the while you protected Lesnar, and I argue, frankly, that you have protected Roman Reigns too by not putting him in an uncomfortable position and going against the grain, putting him in a spot that he wasn't prepared for and the fans weren't ready for themselves. So many things about this main event worked. Was it the greatest main event in WrestleMania history? No. Is it even one of the best main events in WrestleMania history? No. Was it a productive, effective, very well executed main event for WrestleMania? Yes. Was it the biggest and most pleasant surprise of this year's show? Yes. Could I argue that this was technically the best segment of the night and maybe the best match of the night? Yes. So now we've reached the point where it's time to find out if this was the type of show that I said it was going to be. Was WrestleMania 31 a forgettable show? And sadly, I think the answer was yes. This was a largely forgettable show. For the most part, this is exactly what the hell I thought it was going to be heading into the event. The event delivered to my expectations, and that's not necessarily a good thing. I know this won't certainly be a popular opinion. It will get the flaming keyboard fingers of fire going, but I think I've made a pretty good case throughout the entirety of this very lengthy, in-depth review as to why I feel this is a forgettable show. 1 or 2 highlights doesn't make a good or great show automatically. Let's get that out of the way. Also, a great ending, like let's say a great main event with a great finish, doesn't whitewash the rest of the problems with the show away. There was a lot of crap. There were a lot of mistakes. There were a lot of poorly executed things, a lot of bad decisions made throughout WrestleMania 31. So just because you're happy that this guy won at the beginning or this guy won at the end or this happened, doesn't mean that the entire show was good. And I've seen people talking about how this show is great or awesome or epic. Have we lowered our standards that much? Or is it just because we have lowered the bar and the expectations so damn much that anything above that would be okay, a little bit more would be good, maybe a little bit more would be great, and it's still average or mediocre? Let's look at this. You had 7 matches on this card, and most of them were forgettable. The IC title ladder match was mediocre. Orton and Rollins, great finish, but the match was just really starting to get going. It could have been so much more than what it ultimately was. It was a Raw main event, not a WrestleMania match. The Divas tag match, forget about it. Cena versus Rusev, that shit stunk. Wyatt versus Taker was odd and surreal and not in a good way. And then you look at Sting versus Triple H, what it could have been, and that is an example of where the finish does freaking ruin it. Where you can sit there and say, you have a 2-hour movie. If the first hour and 45 minutes suck, but the last 15 minutes are really good, does that mean it was a good movie? Not particularly. But if you have, let's say, an hour and 45 minutes of a really good movie, and the last 15 minutes the finish sucks, are you going to remember it as a bad movie? Probably, and you should, because at the end of the day, it's about the finish. It's about how you piece everything together. And when it comes to Sting and Triple H, it was so ridiculous. And the worst thing of all is after losing, after getting screwed, Sting shaking hands with Triple H. The only way that should have been booked to happen was a sign of respect by Triple H after Sting had beat him. The time management on the show was atrocious. The structure of the show was very poor. It was the same crap we've seen in terms of the past few WrestleManias. It was way too quick, and it got way too slow, and then it evened out towards the end. The whole visuals of this event were very lacking. They missed on several big-time important entrances. The Breakfast Club reigned supreme. We talk about so many things changing. A lot of this bullshit remained exactly the fucking same. Questionable booking decisions like Big Show winning the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. You've got freaking Triple H going over Sting. Yes, frankly, Cena beating Rusev was questionable. Frankly, Taker beating Wyatt was questionable the same way as Wyatt beating Taker would be questionable. WWE basically, for all intents and purposes to me, gave you 1 or 2 things, like they always do, that suck you in, that sit there and give you a reason to continue to have hope. But just because you're happy that Daniel Bryan won, and just because you're happy partly that Seth Rollins won, but even more importantly that Roman Reigns didn't win the title to end the show, doesn't make it a good show. This is exactly the type of show I've come to expect from the WWE. A lot of crap, a lot of mistakes, and 1 or 2 things that you're expected to overlook everything else because of. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to stand for mediocrity and sit there and try and pass it off as anything other than such. If that's your coping mechanism to sit there and continue to justify why you watch this company, why you watch this product, that's fine. That's your coping mechanism, but it's not mine. And I'm not about to sit there and be disingenuous and lie to all of y'all, sitting there telling you that this show was something that it wasn't. How can a show with several forgettable matches that were structured poorly, that the visuals were bad, that the time management was atrocious, can be sit there and considered a good, very good, or some cases, Jesus Christ, it's a great show? Have our standards dropped that much? Seriously. This was a largely forgettable show. Frankly, the only thing I'm going to remember about this show long-term is that RKO that Orton used to win, the fact that Sting lost to Triple H, and then the main event. That is not a good show. That is a largely forgettable show because God knows I'm going to be spending a lot of my time trying to forget that Sting versus Triple H ever fucking happened. I got the main event, and that's basically it. That's not a good show. That's a forgettable show. And if you really, really step back and think about it for a second, just because you're happy Seth Rollins won, just because you're happy Roman Reigns didn't win, that doesn't give it good enough reason to say that this was a good show. Because you know deep down that it wasn't.